Welcome all. This is the panel that I have been personally excited about, and the reason is the following. One, there is a reason why I really joined Zinnov. What Pari told me is that we are going to be the folks who are going to be able to tell the whole world, the global enterprises, of what India is really capable of. We are going to tell them why they need to be in India, why engineering in India is going to be as good as it is anywhere in the world. That was the statement that was sold to me, and to be honest, it's something that we live and breathe every day. The reason this panel excites me is because each of these individuals here are deeply patriotic, right? And that is something that we want to discuss. We spend entire 2 days discussing what AI is. This is the only session where we will discuss what AI means for India, what India needs to do in the context or in the application of AI, and how is the government of India, both at the center and at the state, enabling us to do or be what we need to be in the world of AI. So with that, I will first start with this same context on what exactly India needs to do. We all hear multiple things which start off as India doesn't even have a model which is in the top 50. India is hardly represented in the global forum when it comes to AI. The answer to that is, do we really need to be that way? If yes, then what are we doing about it? If not, then what is the benchmark that we need to follow? And maybe I'll start with Sanjay, right? Sanjay, I think we discussed and you have some, I would say, very strong opinions about it. And I would like you to share with the audience what India actually needs to be or needs to do when it comes to AI. What is the benchmark? What should we look at doing? What is the things we should try to stay away from? Because it doesn't really matter.
So thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks a lot for inviting me here to be on this panel with eminent panelists. And that was a very simple question that you asked. What does India need to do with AI? Yeah. See, very simply, first of all, we should not copy what exists elsewhere, because our contexts are very different. If a Meta can spend billions of dollars in creating several billion parameters-based models, it's no reason for us to do it. We need to do stuff that serves our needs. And what are our needs? In India, you have at least 30 languages spoken by at least 1 million people. Language and large language models kind of coexist. Right. Language is a substratum of the mind. So there are socio-cultural, behavioral memes that get transmitted through languages. So the Bhashini project that the government of India and others have been part of is a fantastic step. AI for education. We lack good quality teachers. AI for healthcare. AI in medical diagnostics. AI for space. AI for defense. And we saw that recently in Operation Sindoor, how so many innovative startups played a great role. Right. AI in agriculture, another massive thing. So similarly, we need to be able to think of these things, right, at a very, very deep level and not get bogged down in model sizes and parameters and tokens and all of that. For example, I don't know if you're aware, there's an organization called ASPI, Australian Strategic Policy Institute, which brings out an authoritative report on the technology, capability, capacity, and state of readiness of different countries. Obviously, you would expect US and China to be there at the top. India is right there in terms of citations, research, etc. So our challenge is to convert all of that into products that serve the needs of Indian people.
Interesting. I think that's a good point, right? And one of the things that it's also incumbent on all of us to think about is, does India have its own internet? Does Europe have its own internet? That Europe has its own cloud? No. Do we have our own cloud? No. So why do we really expect that we have our own OpenAI, right? It is at the end of the day an open source model or something that can be bought off the shelf. So these are questions we must ask before we directly jump into criticizing what we don't have or what we think we should have. Now coming, basis that, and also what Sanjay mentioned in terms of what we need to do and what I hear is application of AI. I want to come to Jayesh, and you have done some pioneering work both in terms of overall industrialization, but also looking at startups in general, and now with AI coming in, AI startups. In your mind, what are the incentives that you are providing with or without the central government's impetus to get or push startups into AI, and especially into AI that helps the public in India?
Thank you. So first of all, greetings to you, Sidhant. Greetings to fellow panelists. Always a nice experience to be here in the Zinnov Conference. Special greetings to all the friends who are here from Hyderabad. It takes lots of courage to come to Bangalore, so appreciate your courage. But this is a serious question. And before I tell what we do for startups, I'd like to add a little bit of what Sanjay kind of explained. So I also kind of second his view that we need not worry too much whether we have models and things like that. But I guess, and it has been happening organically over the last few years, that India is now taking the position of becoming the use case capital of the world. So I guess that is where our focus should be. Identify as many use cases, do that identification bottoms up, identify some of the most pressing problems that people face. He mentioned about half a dozen domains, agriculture. See, we all know that there are lots of inefficiencies in the way cultivation happens, farming happens. How can technology improve or help overcome those inefficiencies? He spoke about the kind of uneven quality of teachers. How can technology help improve that? So how do you bring the best possible use cases? And I remember I was some years ago in a similar conference where Sam Pitroda was one of the speakers. And this is what he mentioned, that if we are able to solve the problems that exist in India, we can solve them anywhere in the world. Yeah. Because of the complexity, the scale, the kind of multi-layered natures of our problems, etc. So in Telangana, our approach has been this only, that let us identify the most pressing problems, convert them into use cases, and then direct or target attention of academic institutions, Government of India bodies, enterprises, and of course startups to work with the government in finding solutions to the problem. And more than incentives, of course. It's not that we don't give incentives, but the real difficulty which a startup faces when he has to attempt to solve a problem, is he having access to good quality data? Is he able to find institutions where he can show his proof of concept? Is he able to get compute at a reasonable price? And can he find team members who complement each other, whose kind of contributions together will really come out with a brilliant solutions, and obviously an overall welcoming and supportive environment. So this is what we have tried to do in all these years in Hyderabad.
At the same time, I want to maybe ask and maybe even challenge how or what areas the government has to incentivize, right? Yesterday we had a bunch of discussion around how India, because of what GCCs do, we have, like say, I think, I don't see Pari here, but his slide had one number. It said we have 100,000 people doing revenue cycle management. Now my question is, does the government really need to incentivize something like a startup which is automating revenue cycle management? Because honestly, India has nothing to do with revenue cycle management. We don't have that insurance structure. Similarly, I would say half the things we spoke about yesterday, or many of the things that startups are trying to solve, are not Indian problems. So is that something that government needs to spend its money on? I would like your take on that. And then I think, Puru, you come from like even a larger stage at World Economic Forum. How do you see it happening globally, and then how are you contextualizing it to India? So Jayesh, that first your take.
So a quick and obvious answer is no. I mean, we should direct our resources, our talent, our energies in finding solutions to hyperlocal problems, local problems, problems which require immediate attention. We can't delay solving them. Otherwise, again, a generation will go without enjoying the fruits of technology. So obviously, so many of you would be aware, in Hyderabad, the innovation ecosystem fulcrums around an institution which is called the T-Hub. So in T-Hub, we have complete clarity on it. What kind of startups will be onboarded, what kind of priorities are there. And of course, while T-Hub is located in Hyderabad, we don't look at priorities only from a state's point of view. We are absolutely okay to look at what are the national priorities, global priorities, and things like RCM obviously won't figure in it in any way.
Interesting. Go ahead, Pur.
Yeah, I think from World Economic Forum perspectives, one is the global view. Most of our learnings here in India have been through the India office and center, which has been in existence for the last 5 years. So there are two parts of AI. One is the diffusion part of AI, which like AI for agriculture, AI for health, AI for food and other things. And the other side is AI building, or AI more like strategic leadership and the components of AI building, which could be, compute and algorithms and data and stuff. Now, on both sides, obviously, startups are working and then trying to work on like building AI and enabling AI. The first part is pretty much, as I would say that this is phase 0 of AI, which is most of the available public data, web data scraped through all the resources that you could get, and which would mean resources in terms of compute, resources in terms of best minds, and then capturing it in LLMs. There are more than 800 LLMs, but not all of them are open source, by the way. Okay. So there is an open source ecosystem.
So you're saying there are more than 800 LLMs that we are tracking?
There are more than 800 LLMs which have been built over the last thing. So is LLM the race? I would still say it is, as Sanjay, you said, languages. But the world has to move. That more than 98% of the data is behind the walls. Enterprise, private data. Now, unless that comes into the picture, the AI, the journey will keep evolving, both on building side and also on the diffusion side. Now, we in India have more focus on the diffusion of technologies, how AI is going to help on agriculture, how AI is going to be helping on SMEs. And some of the work has happened in Telangana, where Jayesh and we have worked together on how can AI really evolve the lives of chili growing farmers in Khammam, where they could demonstrate more than $800 per acre, 64,500 rupees. One monthly income of farmer is 10,000 rupees. So over a crop season, if you can do in 6 months, you double the farmer income just using AI, some few use cases that we did. So that's evidence. And how...
So this was done by the government, by yourself,
or
we
through a startup?
With
in Khammam. It's like an impact study report which is available pretty much for everyone's consumption, and understand like what worked and what did not work as well. Like, because there are things which don't work and this whole assumption of it's all digital, none of these technology diffusion can happen in a digital way. It's digital world in a real sense. How farmers adopt it to farmers, how startups build it is never the same. So it's going to be a long chain where to make it happen, you really need to make the whole chain. And that's where Telangana really hired a lot of extension staff to work with the farmers alongside the startups. Like some part of the startup is said like, okay, how much money is invested as grants, but the real enablement for startups happen by enabling the whole ecosystem to work with them. The second part, which Telangana and national ministries are also doing, is how do you enable data? And I think that's you mentioned about, we worked on agriculture data exchange, national ministry is working on agri stack. Similarly, it is health stack, and then subsequently there are other data stacks also evolving. So how do you leverage your DPI stacks, plus also the initiatives like agri data exchange, now becoming Telangana data exchange, is going to be the biggest asset that startups would be leveraging for both disseminating AI and also building AI.
Interesting. So I think we spoke about data a lot, and Sanjay, I know you have a point of view on that. So I want to cover two things, right? One is data and data policy. Like Europe, we all know, has a strict GDPR. US, I mean, your data is government data. In India, we have some laws, some barriers, but still the policy is not very clear. So I want to ask almost two questions simultaneously. One is, what is the government's role, like the central government's role in either defining frameworks or guidelines. It could be on data, it could be on AI usage, or where not to use data. Second, does the government have to stop, central government stop there, and the rest is up to the state? That is a little unclear in my mind, and I'm sure people here also are wondering, because we hear numbers. So for example, one of the big numbers we hear is that the government of India has 10,000 crores for AI. Now we have no clue what that means, right? But we can see things that are happening on the ground, the examples that you mentioned. So I think this role of center versus state in terms of either policy or on the ground incentive, I want to first get Jayesh sir's opinion on that, and then on the contextual thing, I'll get you in, Sanjay. Yeah.
See, in a way, I'm happy that this event is happening in Bangalore. If it was happening in Delhi, I wouldn't have been so candid. You always get this feeling that you are watched. I mean, not that people are not watching us here, but in Delhi, the watch happens 3-4 layers away. See, the fact is, center has well-meaning people. Their intent is good. But my only complaint is that they're too slow. And there's a very strong mistrust of getting the best of the private sector, the best of companies, best of consultancies. It may be there in some states as well, but at least in the state that I work for, we have kind of overcome all these mental blocks. We want to work collaboratively. We want to show fast results. We want to move off the ground. So as you mentioned, Government of India is still thinking about how to create data, how to make data accessible, how to make it machine readable. We have already gone ahead, as Puru was mentioning. At least, I think the AI data exchange was set up almost 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
3 years.
3 years ago. And then just a few months ago, couple of months ago, we have launched full scale TDEX, that is the Telangana data exchange. So that is one. And the second thing is that, unfortunately, there's no level playing field when you look at the way Government of India operates. They pick favorites. Ideally, they should have seen which state is showing the most dynamism, the most energy, back it completely. But there the feeling will be, I should back. Possibly there is some justification that I should take all 28 states together, but then you lose out. And of course, not that we are in that same race, but when you say that China has so many models, US has so many models, one of the reasons is that the national policies are not getting the kind of results. And the other point which I'm trying to make is that if the Government of India had real sincerity in doing something, they would have done it a long time ago, since they have not kind of, so if they step away and allow progressive states to kind of take center stage, and states like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh, I mean, most of the southern states, as we know, are in a different league altogether. So this is what I would expect. But the other important thing is that they do have money. So as you said, they have 10,000 crores, which we won't have. So allow us to have that money and do things in our own way. But it's a very simplistic, it's a very naive world which doesn't exist in reality.
Yeah, we all want part of that 10,000 crores, but nobody is able to figure where it is. So please.
I think one thing which I forgot to mention. So IT Secretary of we work closely with Karnataka as well, and IT Secretary Karnataka. I think Ms. Ekrup Kaur is here only.
Yeah.
And I wanted her to be the stage also along with Jayesh so that we could have amazing dialogue here.
Yeah, we tried that last time also. Yeah, so I'll get, yeah. So Sanjay, please.
2-3 points I think need to be mentioned. One is, with regard to data, right, which is the main thing. See, you need to be able to aggregate data across different silos, be it private, be it public, which means there are multiple organizations who need to be able to provide the data in a manner that is compliant with, let's say, either the DPDP Act or whatever. Now, you take an example today. I don't know how many of you are aware of a consent-based sharing mechanism in India, the only country in the world, only country that uses techno-legal regulation to be able to do consent sharing for what is called the account aggregator. I don't know how many of you are even aware of it. Are you aware of account aggregators? Please look at it. OCEN, Open Credit Enablement Network. For an economy to work, you need credit. money flow in an economy is the lubricant for making everything happen. And that today, particularly for micro, small, medium enterprises, access to credit is fundamental. How do you enable that? You don't have to fill up 45-page documents, sign it in blood with affidavits and your photographs and fingerprints and go to 25 organizations. You don't need that. The account aggregator framework, which operates through licensed entities by the Reserve Bank of India, allows that to happen. OCE, and please look it up. And that is the foundational method by which data flow and information flow about the person or the consent is enabled through what's called a techno-legal mechanism, which is a consent artifact, which is an immutable code that says who is asking for the money, to whom, for what purpose, and giving permission to which source to be able to share that information, right? That's one big example. And it's very important that we understand that there can be no AI if there is no data, period. Which means that enabling smooth, easy flow of data in a mechanism that allows the privacy and security of the data owners to be maintained at all times, and they must have an easy mechanism of providing consent for the sharing of their data, which means they also need to be aware that what is the data being used for, which means education, which means training, etc., right? So that's one part. Second part, what is it that the governments can do? End of the day, governments can do what they can do, given the realities of the political system, etc., etc. The question I would only want to ask, and this is for the private sector particularly, I just want to bring back what JFK said, John F. Kennedy said back in the 1960s. Ask not what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for the country. What have you done? Very, very important question. What does the private sector investment in R&D? Private sector, it is, while you can create a quote-unquote AI-based presentation app or a dating app, nothing wrong with it. But who's spending time on solving the problems that face all of us? That's a foundational area, right? And therefore, the responsibility is on each one of us to be able to take that step and think outside, what we get consumed by. Social media based, because Meta did this, Google did that, who cares? Is our lives changing because of that? Right? It is that mindset that needs to emerge. Then finally, last point about this money that the center has or the states have and so on and so forth. The fact remains that, for example, the recent announcement of the Research, Development and Innovation Fund, right? 1 lakh crores was announced in the budget of 2024, got operationalized in July 1st of this year. I'm quite certain most of us aren't aware of that as well. Now the point is, 20,000 crores has been allocated for the first year, right? For foundational research, what's called TRL 1 through 5. Now the question is, what is the private sector going to do with it? Right? For example, startups, private venture capital funds, large corporations. Our corporations, the country spends 0.7% of GDP on R&D, of which the private sector corporation, everybody from Reliance downwards, contributes to less than 25% of that. Right? And that's an important thing. And it's all very well to start saying, this country did that. Of course they will do it. Question is, what are we doing? And for that, all of us need to stand up and take responsibility for it. And very, very foundational. And Jayesh sir is here, and he's done phenomenal work at Telangana. Now the question is, there was an enabling environment, you had somebody of his ability to be able to do such things. The question is, what pressures are we putting on our systems, in our states, in our companies, in our spheres of influence to be able to make change happen?
Right. So that's an interesting point, right? One is also people would go in a direction, given a direction, right? So, for example, let's say each of the folks here are from GCCs. They work in a certain company. The management has provided guidance in terms of, okay, software product development, this is how it should happen. These are the feature sets we chase. These are the use cases we chase. Is there some kind of a blueprint or a directional document which says, if you are an entrepreneur or if you're an intrapreneur who wants to invest their CSR money in a certain area, these are the top 20 use cases or problem areas in India that you want to solve? Or these are the top use cases in, say, Karnataka or Telangana or Tamil Nadu that you want to solve? Is there something like that we have, Jayesh sir, or anything equivalent to that, or any nodal agency that we can approach to think about that?
So, frankly speaking, currently we don't have that kind of a template or a playbook, but when you speak about it, it kind of resonates with me that this can be a great thing to do actually. And I'll give you a real example. In fact, it's a nice coincidence. While I was walking in, I met someone who has come from Hyderabad from this company called Hexagon. And we greeted each other, and now I'm reminded. So Hexagon also would have had their own headquarters guiding them on what to do, what not to do. But out of their own interest, possibly, they actually did something which is very important for the city of Hyderabad. They have started creating digital twins, because that is a technology they have lots of expertise in. So they actually spent lots of time and effort and resources in developing the digital twin of some heritage monuments, which they kind of presented to us. And now that we know what their capabilities are, what is the benefit of advantage of having a digital twin, because we are undertaking lots of renovations in that heritage monument. How can the same technology be used for city planning, for doing lots of urban sector initiatives, and so on and so forth. So this happened just by chance. They developed this in-house technologies. They wanted to show to the government how to make it work. But I'm very sure that everyone else also who is in our country, who, of course, they have a core business idea to pursue. But if there are opportunities, I know of many logistics GCCs who are in Hyderabad. They have very good systems of bringing efficiency in logistics operations. All of us know that because of inefficiencies in logistics, our GDP actually gets a setback of a couple of percentages and all. So everything matters, every small thing matters. But what you said is very true. You need a good framework to pull all these kind of technologies and initiatives. And this is a great takeaway for me. I'll try to work on this.
Great. Puru, I think you had some 2-3 very good examples of how, although we all like to believe that we are very inadequate in the amount of work or impact that we are having, but it was very enlightening for me to hear the examples that you gave in terms of how AI has been used, not just in 1 or 2 states, but multiple areas. So I would like you to share some of those examples as almost inspirational use cases that others can use, and then I'll come back to kind of close this session. Yeah.
Sure. I think, so beside the work that we did in agriculture, we had also done work in healthcare, where we went deeper into cancer. Specifically, the framework is still publicly available, called First Cancer, a Fourth Industrial Revolution for Sustainable Transformation of Cancer Care. On ground, the framework was deployed in Meghalaya in East Khasi Hill, which is also the cancer capital of India, the highest cancer incidence rates. The biggest problem there is the late detection of cancer, which caused like 8 months of delay from the point of occurrence to the point of detection, which is the highest casualties, and the cost of cancer care goes up. Meghalaya is struggling with this issue. So they now, for this district, which is 900,000 population, Asha healthcare workers who go door to door and maybe screen patients. 11,000 people have been screened for higher probability, which needed further detection. And that doesn't mean that all of them would have it, but at least they could be brought up back into the medical diagnostic cycle to be taken further steps. Yes, there are learnings that and we're talking of this project which started pre-launch of ChatGPT. Is now like things are becoming much different. But then this is something as an example. Now they're likely to be expanding it to multiple districts, pretty much like what Telangana now expanding the project which was called Sagu Bagu to 10 districts, 5 different crops, covering now from 55,000 farmers to 500,000 or 800,000 is the number. Now these are expanding. This is expanding. But I think the first question that you raised is that, okay, where should you be playing now? Are we losing the battle to US, China? I think the game is, as I said, is yet to be played. We have to do a bit of a long-term thinking. We need to just focus on one, LLMs are horizontal, but then we possibly need to work on vertical, where we have a strength on DPI. We certainly are this whole scale of data exchanges, which could be done through states by enabling more data sets. The states which are forward leading can enable a larger ecosystem. So how do you enable data for better leverage for innovators? And third, which could also be that how can India be becoming a leader in privacy preserving technologies that Sanjay spoke about, like how federated learning, how confidential computing, those technologies can evolve, and there are many more technologies which are going to be coming up where we can demonstrate to the world, not just through policy, but also through techno-legal implementation of such preserving frameworks, where the 98% of the data which is lying behind the walls could be brought back for innovation.
Got it. Makes sense. So I just have a short time left. So I'll kind of try and close this with one or two questions, right? Maybe the first question I have is, I think Sanjay, you mentioned, and Jayesh sir also mentioned, we have to think about what this entire group, or let's say the whole people sitting here, the GCC community, what they can do to contribute in terms of AI for India. So can you give us the top 2 things from your side, and then again, Jayesh sir, from your side?
So very quickly, I think everybody who's here in Bangalore, can you use your technology, whatever it may be, whether, let's say AI is the buzzword right now, so let's say using AI to try and figure out how to deal with mobility and traffic problems. Right? In fact,
that's the bravery that Jayesh sir was referring to.
Find all the choke points. Find capacity of. And for example, I have personally counted 28 different form factors of vehicles on Bangalore roads, which drive at different speeds. Right? Now the question is, therefore, how do you deal with these things? Right? It's impossible for any human to actually do it. All it requires is spend some time, collect data. Number 1. Number 2 is, in whichever domain you're in, whether it's in financial services, healthcare, devices, et cetera, or automotives, manufacturing, what is it that can be extracted out by way of learning that can be in conjunction with your organization, be made into a piece of technology or even spun out as a special purpose vehicle to solve a problem that is not directly in line with what your company wants to do, but is certainly adjacent to it.
Basically, application of technology they're very good at for the public use. Makes sense. Jayesh sir, let you have the final word.
No, something very similar, but I'll act upon it, not just leave it as a thought or an idea. In Hyderabad, one good thing which we have done is that sectors where we have large number of GCCs, we have created networks. So for example, there is a BFSI consortium, there's a life sciences consortium. So we will encourage the consortium leaders to identify some. So BFSI consortium, for instance, can look at challenges of financial inclusion, or you spoke about MSME financing, MSME credit, and so on and so forth. Or insurance for, micro-insurance for very underserved kind of population. There are hundreds of challenges which, as you would imagine, people in our country face. The life sciences, people can do so many other things. So I guess this is the way forward, that you identify with their help problem statements where their technologies can work and maybe put together a small group. And I'm sure they will also find value. Not just will it be satisfying to them to contribute to a state's or a country's development, but the ability to refine their technologies in real world scenario also will be a big win for them. So I'll act upon it. It's a great takeaway for me.
Great. I would, so in summary, what I think my takeaway is, one, whenever we think about any technology, and it's very important for us to contextualize it in our own frame, in our own country, then our state, then our own ecosystem. So we cannot just say, hey, if somebody has done this, then we should be doing the same. That is one. Second, we have to always think about what we are doing for the same, right? So I think, like Sanjay said, corporate spends about 0.7% is their entire contribution on the R&D side from a GDP perspective. We have to think about how even we are using our own personal time on regarding that when it comes to public spaces, public service, etc. What is it that we are doing? How are we contributing to it in terms of time, effort, etc.? So it's important for us to contextualize and not just directly do a 1:1. And I think from what I have learned today, there are multiple areas that the government is working on. And if we show even the slightest amount of enthusiasm, there are multiple areas that we can get help from. And there are different agencies, nodal bodies. All we have to do is a little bit of effort from our side. It's not as simple as Google and you'll find, but little effort and you will get there. So firstly, again, each of you, I think what you're doing for the country is monumental and very important. And thank you for your services. Thank you so much.